for speakers, when you have a book, it gives your topic a next level of authority. The speakers who do that deep dive so far, so deep into actually coalescing all that thinking into a book is above and beyond a regular speaker level. That was my intention. I want to raise myself above the pack so that when somebody looks at me and looks at my fee and says, oh, well, should we pay that for that person? They've got a whole bunch of proof points that speak to them to say, actually, yes, we should pay that.
Hello there, ladies and gents. Andrew Griffiths here, the Business of Being an Author podcast, and we have a great show ahead. You're going to meet the one and the only Katja Forbes. Hello, Katja.
Good morning, good afternoon to all the people around the world.
And you're in beautiful Singapore, turning the air conditioning down to make it colder. And I'm in beautiful Tasmania where I've just cranked up the heater because it's freezing, basically.
Oh, that sounds delightful.
I know. You'll be able to enjoy it permanently soon. Now, Katja is the extraordinary author of this amazing book. Sorry about any glare there, but it's a fabulous book, Machine Customers, The Evolution Has Begun. And we're going to talk more about that. It's, a bold, timely book exploring what happens when AI, autonomous systems, intelligent agents start becoming customers in their own right. Now, the topic of that, I was just chatting to Katja and Chris offline and saying that when I first met you, I really, after our first conversation, I needed to go and curl up in a ball and reappraise my entire life because stuff that I had no idea about. And you very kindly unloaded it on me in a gentle way that still made me go, oh my goodness me, what an amazing kind of a topic. So thank you for being kind and gentle. But then
thank you.
We worked together on you writing this book. And now, why did I want to interview you? And whilst your topic for your book is extraordinary, and it is a fabulous book, I don't think I've ever worked with an author who had such focus and such a clear plan and a strategy as you. I say that with no hint of exaggeration. You got on the call.
Wow.
You knew what you wanted. You knew why you were there. You knew what you needed help with. You knew what you wanted your book to achieve. You knew that you wanted to do it now. It was a bit of a military operation in some respects. It was extraordinary for me.
Wow. That's high praise, Andrew, because you've worked with a lot of authors. I'm quite taken aback.
Well, and I mean every word of it. And it was, for me, I felt you were the essence of what I would consider that a commercial author. You wanted robustness of your book. And again, there was so much about the importance of the quality of the book and the research and all the rest of it, which again we'll get to. But it was like, the mapping out, the clarity in your mind was fabulous. And we'll unpack that a little bit more. But the first question I'll ask you is maybe tell us more about your book from your perspective in whatever you feel you want to share about it.
Sure. Well, I'll be gentle again for the audience for whom perhaps this is
Thank you.
New news. So I've spent decades as a customer experience specialist, predominantly designing things for human customer experiences, because in the entire history of commerce, the ones who have been buying have been humans. I mean, maybe we also have businesses, but businesses are just made up of humans trying to get stuff done. And so with the advent of AI and coming to its fore in being able to autonomously achieve outcomes on behalf of its human owner, I saw the opportunity for customer experience to change and start to treat AI agents and physical AI, robots, cars, printers, drones, as customers that can actually transact on their own behalves and on the behalves of the humans who own them. So my book is about what does that mean for customer experience? What does that mean for how we treat these new non-human economic actors, to quote the Gartner descriptor for them? And what can we take from how we used to do customer experience and change it and pivot it and put a new lens on it so that we can take everything we already know and still have meaning in this completely different thought of a customer that is not human.
Yeah, great. And that's, again, machine customers is that it's a mighty topic. It's fascinating to me. And I know you do a lot of speaking about this, and that's going to ramp up now. I think, again, you treated this book to me very much like it was a very serious commercial project. It wasn't some kind of creative side hustle, to use that kind of term. It wasn't something kind of nice to do. Do you kind of feel that mindset gave you an advantage for the writing process from the start?
Definitely. I think that we say I came to it with clarity, but oh my God, you should have seen some of the first drafts of the stuff that I wrote. It was like I was writing a textbook. It was garbage. And I think engaging with you gave me more clarity about who I was actually speaking to, what I was not writing. I think that was really an important thing to figure out. I was not writing a textbook. I was not writing a translation manual from technical stuff for regular people who are not super technical so that they can understand it. It wasn't supposed to be that. And figuring out what I was not writing, I think, was one of the really important early lessons that I learned. And going through then the book pitch document, which is part of the writing process that you've introduced me to, I got really good clarity about who I was speaking to. I was speaking to customer experience professionals who are seeing this coming and wanting to know what they should do about it. I was speaking to business leaders who care about their customers and need to start thinking about it in a different way. I was speaking to some of the adjacent to customer experience readers, people in marketing, sales, people who have high touch with customers, and maybe customer experience isn't necessarily their day-to-day, but they need to understand how this shift is going to change their practices. And so being really clear about who I was writing for and who I was speaking to helped shape what I wrote and how I wrote it as well. So that clarity, I think, came definitely not from the get-go about what I was going to write. I think the clarity of purpose of what it was for, which is it was a vehicle for me to be able to ramp up my speaking career, which I adore. I'm the happiest on a stage.
Yeah,
I'm so in my happy place when I'm up on the stage. Like, you can give me 20 slides I've never seen before and put me in front of 5,000 people, and I tell you, I will make something of it. And this is what brings me joy. So giving me a platform, content, thought leadership, authority via the book is a way for me to then amplify the things that I love to do. And creating that really great path for me to do all of that full time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. And that's so again, for people that are listening or watching, you at the moment, you've got or had a big corporate career up until this point as well.
Yes, I wrote the book and had a corporate career at the same time.
Yeah.
It's not really easy, but it's doable, people. It's doable.
Well, for you, definitely, and I think you're right, it's doable, but that was part of that strategy. When you were talking to me again, what you actually just mentioned there was about, okay, I want to do the stuff that I love, which is speaking. I want to be the thought leader. I want to really build that. Build a business, around this, and I see the book as a tool to achieve that. Could you maybe talk that through a little bit more?
Yeah, I think for speakers, when you have a book, it gives your topic a next level of authority, that it was worth writing down that much information about it, printing it out on paper, putting a cover on the front and the back, and people actually then buying it from you. And it proves out that not only have you got a great topic and you've thought about it deeply, but you've taken it to the level where, for me, like I wrote 338 pages about it, a manuscript of over 70,000 words, which I know you tried to get me to cut, but I just couldn't. It just had to be what it was. So it proves that you have dived as deeply as it is possible to dive on a topic and put your thinking out into the world. So I think it just adds another layer of credibility to what you have to say. And when a lot of speakers, I think they kind of maybe read articles online, watch YouTube videos, and then get a point of view and come and talk about that. And that's merit in that, and you can have great speakers who do that. But I think the speakers who do that deep dive so far, so deep into actually coalescing all that thinking into a book it's something above and beyond where like a regular speaker level might sit. And so that was my intention. I want to raise myself above the pack. I want to raise myself in visibility, in credibility signals and all of that, so that when somebody looks at me and looks at my fee and says, should we pay that for that person? They've got a whole bunch of proof points that speak to them to say, actually, yes, we should pay that. And I every day, when I'm negotiating fees, your book, somebody has to be the most expensive. It may as well be you. It just runs through my mind like ticker tape. And I'm like, somebody's got to be the most expensive. I think it should be me.
I think it should be you too.
In order for me to command those kinds of, speaker fees, it has to come with credibility. And the book is a massive credibility signal. It also means that in any Q&A after my talk, I have got depth of knowledge that I can answer really curveball questions or things that maybe other people haven't thought about. So it's also a repository for me to make sure that I can stand up in front of those 5,000 people and be the expert when I'm challenged. Be the expert when I get a hard or tricky question. So it contributes all of those things as well, again, to make sure that I'm worth what they pay.
Mm-hmm. I think too, one of the things that I really enjoyed about the process with you around this, we knew what the outcome was, we knew what the tool was that you wanted to create and the importance of it being a credibility tool. But again, you and I chatted, and we were talking about this just before we started recording. AI space. Everyone's an AI speaker now. Everyone is, everyone's writing a book. My dog's writing a book about AI for dogs. It's become, we're moving through this.
I would buy that.
Yeah, I would buy that. I kind of like it now. I kind of get to work, Bloomy. Start writing. But you were absolutely unrelentless in your commitment to this book has to differentiate me. It has to be absolutely credible. And it wasn't a I think, therefore it is book, and it can't be in a space like this for what you're talking about before there about being a speaker. Now, someone's trying to book a speaker. There's 20 AI speakers all lined up. The way that you've differentiated yourself and the book being that line in the sand of this is what I talk about, this is my space, was so well done. But the second part about that I'd love you to share was this is a topic moving at 1,000 miles an hour. We had the conversation of, is your book going to be out of date and irrelevant when the day it's published? And it most certainly is not, and certainly has longevity. But how did you make it, how did you differentiate it and ensure that it had the right depth of credibility for people that would actually read it?
Yeah, this is, there's a bunch of things to unpack here. On the relevancy, I took an 80-20 rule for this book, which was that by the time I published it, it would be 80% right and things would be still appropriate to talk about. But in the following, maybe 6 months, about 20% of it maybe would move on. Something will have happened in the marketplace that changes it. So I wrote the book before Claude Cowork existed. some of the experiments that I ran using Perplexity's comment and ChatGPT's agent mode. The findings that I have from them are still valid and accurate. However, I would run those experiments with different offerings now. There's different things in the marketplace that might do the stuff that I experimented on a little bit better now. So I knew that it was better to have a book out in market with my thinking and the position that was 80% there and maybe 20%, 10%, stuff had moved on. And I was okay with that. And I figured I'll fix it. Whatever is wrong by the end of this year, I'll fix it in the second edition. And so the other tactic that I took with that was to ensure that I didn't write a textbook. I wasn't writing a translation manual from how this technology works and then we do this over here in customer experience to make things better. I really tried to take a principles approach, things that were evergreen concepts that regardless of how the technology changed, the concept and the principle would still be the same. It would still be accurate and it would still have relevancy. So ensuring that some of those kinds of evergreen content ideas and frameworks are in the book also helps it maintain credibility, longevity as technology moves on. I mean, I'm deep in the weeds on this stuff and I'm writing on Substack every week. So, because I have to keep up. I feel like I'm hanging on to the rocket that's like flying out into space with my fingernails peeling off. And I'm reading and writing about this every day. I built my own agent that does my research for me. I sent it out this morning to see what it can find. Like I send it out every day and go, what have you got for me? And being actually hands-on and staying hands-on in the space is also additional credibility. I don't think this type of a book, and in any book in fast-moving technology like this, it's not a one and done. Like you have to keep reading, keep writing, keep researching, keep hands in, keep across the top of the change that is happening at a pace that we've never ever seen before. And it will never be this slow again. So those are some of the tactics that I used to ensure that it didn't completely go out of date the minute it hit the shelves.
Mm-hmm. And you think that's worked?
Yes, I do. I do. I think it's definitely worked because it's still selling. I did some research because, you put your effort into these things. And I was like, well, maybe my friends and family will buy it.
Maybe.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'll sell 50 copies. Doesn't matter. Like it's a credibility signal. Doesn't matter. But it actually sold more than 1,000 copies in the first 90 days, which when I did a bit of research is most books that are published don't sell 1,000 copies in their lifetime of existence.
Most are likely to sell 200 in their life. I felt
quite good about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's still ticking out, like it's still dribbling out on Amazon, I still have I get a lot of corporate orders because it's that kind of book. Conferences order bulk. I'll be speaking in Vienna in about a month and a half and, they're buying bulk buys. I spoke in Hong Kong. They did a bulk buy. I was speaking for another conference. And that's another channel, I guess, for me to make sure that my ideas are getting out there because the book is getting into the hands of people who are my target audience. And so that as a revenue stream, the Amazon, I take that one as like a signal that it still has relevancy. But the corporate orders are the ones that are actually the true revenue generators, but also revenue generators because they're usually attached to a speaking opportunity as well.
Yeah.
So that's worked.
And interesting too, I think that a lot of the time from a speaking point of view, we use a book to give us credibility that then, provides an opportunity for us to connect with potential speaking clients. And a lot of the time we think our target is to sell speaking gigs, but to me, that's kind of like the 2 liters of milk. That's the easy part. If you can then go on and sell programs, if you can embed yourself in an organization. Advisory,
retainer, executive briefings.
And it all starts with that. I mean, I trace back every single major opportunity for me in the last 25 years that has been significant in terms of revenue and influence or whatever you'd want to call it. Every single one of those comes back to a moment that I can say I handed someone a physical copy of my book. and or maybe I'd sent someone of influence a copy of my book, and right through that opportunity deconstruction process, you go, well, I gave it to them, who then introduced me to them, who gave it to that, who, it might be 6 hands that it goes through or 6 people, but it comes back to that moment standing in the Gold Coast at an event centre giving someone a book, or sitting next to someone on a plane. And yours is that kind of book. Again, the more people who it lands on their desk, the more extraordinary opportunities that I think will just come hurtling your way. And it's only early days, right? I mean, how long has your book been out for now? It's April now.
Less than 6 months. I published at the end of November 2025. Right. So December, January, February, March, halfway through April at the time of this recording, so less than 5 months.
And that's with the December, January kind of madness in it. So
yeah,
in my view, it's really just launched is the way that I would look at it. I think something else that you did that I thought you did exceptionally well was you reached out to people who you respected, who were leaders in the space, that had perspective. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I think that adds to the credibility of the book a great deal too.
Yeah, because I think when you're writing, if you're just sort of writing your own point of view, some people that's going to work for. But for me, I speak to think, right? I'm one of these people who I will start a sentence, not be entirely sure where it's going until I get to the end of it. And through that speaking process, I've actually connected something, come up with an idea, made something clear to myself. And so knowing that about me, what I did was I went out into my network and I looked at who do I know who would have an interesting perspective on this, who I could interview and have a conversation with. And I selected a whole bunch of people who are either, working in customer experience or design or, metrics and analytics or people for whom this is their specialist topic. So the original founder of the original concept came from Don Scheibenroth at Gartner, who is a man of incredibly generous spirit. And he basically did some research back around 2016 when working on Internet of Things saying, well, what if the thing becomes the customer? And so Gartner started with trends research that early, which is what I found that early, which made me start thinking about it. And Don was somebody I reached out to after I shared something on LinkedIn. He reshared it and said he really liked it. So I reached out to him and said, hey, would you talk to me about your book writing process? I'd be really interested. And then, because, I'm not shy. I said, also, it'd be really amazing if I could maybe interview you for the book that I'm thinking of writing on the customer experience angle of this, to which Don said, sure. And then I said, also, it would be really great if you'd be a beta reader of my book, to which Don said, sure. To which then I said, I don't know if this is a bridge too far, but maybe you might like to write the foreword of the book, to which Don said, sure. And then I did the audio book and I was like, is it okay if I get my brother to read your introduction with an Australian accent? And he's like, oh no, I'll read it for you, and did the audiobook forward reading. So, when I say generous spirit, that's like next level generosity of a distinguished VP from Gartner who is so supportive of the work and really mentored me through a lot of this. So bringing some of those original perspectives who know the topic deeply, brand new perspectives. Some of the best conversations I had with people on this were people going, this is a terrible idea. Like my good mate, Andy Pillane, he's like, this is awful. Why would anybody want to do this? And so that actually challenged me to think about my thinking on it and going, am I just like in love with this idea and it's actually really awful? Jeff Godelf, another friend of mine, we had a conversation. He's like, I don't get it. Like, I don't understand this. I don't understand what you're talking about here. Why would a machine customer have a preference? That doesn't make any sense. And so what it told me was like what I was communicating well, what I was communicating badly. And because we did it in interview and conversation, for me, it crystallized stuff as I was thinking it through and speaking it through. And I think the diversity of voices, I made sure I spoke to people, not only, Western viewpoints. I spoke to a colleague from, an old board position that I had who's in South Africa doing really interesting fintech and financial inclusion stuff, and talked to him about what he thought about this idea and how he thought it might land in the informal economy where people aren't participating in the way that our Western operating model assumes that they are. So I tried to bring like diversity and those different kinds of perspectives in to make sure that I wasn't operating in a bubble with the thinking. So that I think that was actually a really powerful inclusion.
I think it was definitely one of the significant pieces that added to the overall credibility of the book. And as you say, that clarity of thought for you, I think that point that you mentioned there a minute ago, Katja, was about that, writing a book in a bubble. I think, therefore, it is kind of element. I think there was a time that kind of worked. I don't think it works enough anymore. Readers are more sophisticated. I guess it depends a tad on the topic. But with the type of book that you're doing, it would have been very easy for you to do just a piece which is, this is happening, this is what's going on in the world, this is what's coming. I think I just was constantly amazed by the layer of robustness that you just kept adding to. How can I do that? What can I do? How can we pull that apart? Can we do that? It made your book so strong in so many different ways in what could have been a thought piece, but without the depth. And I think there's a great lesson to be learnt for people there these days. It's like, I think I might have mentioned to you somewhere in our conversations, I was talking to the CEO of Simon & Schuster at one stage, and they were saying, we need another leadership book like we need another Saddam Hussein. It's like, we don't want to just hear, I think, therefore, it is. And it's like that. You've got to have something of substance. You've got to have something of significance. You've got to have a different point of view. And it has to have depth these days because people are more sophisticated. We've all got access to stuff. So your level of commitment on that, without a doubt, differentiates your book and everything that you do. And I think that's your nature of who you are, to do that. But that's a great lesson, I think, for anyone out there who wants to build a business around your book. If your book's got to be up to the task, it's got to be up to the job at hand, and it's got to be able to stand up to critique. And who's this lady talking about machine customers? What's that? You look at this and go, wow, this is so impressive. You've got to do the work, and you've got to ask yourself the question that you continually ask: how do I make it better? How do I make it more relevant? How do I give it more depth? But also, how do I make it more accessible? And they were the bits that I think that you really mastered, every step of the way. And that accessibility piece was an interesting one.
Yeah, there's a couple of tactics that I used here. So beta readers are crucial, but not only just beta readers, the right beta readers.
Yes.
For your book.
Yes.
So I gave it to some people. I gave it to my technical beta reader, Spencer Land, who just really went through it with a fine-tooth comb and went, what is that? This is what you're describing here that's not a thing. And so it was really helpful. I'm deeply grateful. Because I'm not a technologist. I'm a customer experience professional. So my technical beta reader, and, I had a couple of other beta readers, one who is one of my colleagues from my corporate career who said something so crucial to me. Being Wong said, I'm not hearing your voice come through in this. It's so many quotes from your interviews. It's like I'm reading interviews. I'm not hearing you. And that was a crucial thing that I really needed to hear right at that moment, which changed the way that I was putting the interviews into the book and the quotes from the interviews in the book. So those sorts of really tiny, brave pieces of feedback were just really, really helpful. And my father is an author, and he gave it a light edit, which included commentary like, this doesn't make any sense, rewrite. So that was fun. The other thing that I used was I used Claude as a sparring partner. Claude the AI. And I had very robust debates with Claude about my ideas, about the topic, about whether something I was thinking was actually, made sense or scanned or was correct. I had a brutal book editor mode that I would put Claude into. Anything that I was a bit dubious about, I would ask it, give me a brutal book editor. And like when you ask AI to be brutal, it really does it.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes it would say things to me that perhaps I needed to hear and hadn't heard or hadn't thought of. To those who are going to the natural next question, did AI write the book for you? No, it is impossible for you to write a whole book that people want to read using AI. It just is not good enough. And I wouldn't want to do that anyway. So the other thing that I also asked my beta readers about was to make sure that my voice was coming through, especially after I got that feedback saying I was just putting too many interview quotes in. And just making sure that, my voice was coming through.
So critical. I mean, particularly when you want to use a book as this leveraging tool, as this credibility tool. I often do encounter that as an issue with authors, where I had one particular author I was working with, and in every chapter there were 15 to 20 external quotes. And
it just gets jagged, and you don't feel the flow of the voice.
You don't. And I want you to be the authority. I want the author to be the authority, not to do everything else. But I think sometimes people do that a little bit in a sense, to add credibility, in a sense, to add depth and profoundness. But it reaches a stage where it goes, well, what do you think about this when I'm reading all these other things? I remember this because in the last chapter that I wrote, I'd finished with a Meredith Whittaker quote.
And I remember you going, this is the closing chapter. Why are you closing it with somebody else's words? What are you doing?
You're the authority. That's the whole reason that we want to hear that. So it's
I know,
very
and I'm like,
interesting.
yeah, he's right. Ooh, that's annoying.
Hey, can I ask you, what changed in you with writing this book?
I learned that I'm a morning person. I never knew that.
I know. I was talking to you early in Singapore. I think sometimes it was 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning, right?
Yeah. So I learned that my peak creative time is between about 5 to 8 a.m. And I never knew that. I never knew that I would get up at 5 o'clock and be able to do really good focused work. But I was forced to do that because when you're running a corporate career, which you have to do in your daytime, and you're trying to write a book on the side, your moments are those moments. Like I would get up every morning. I'd be up for 5. I'd make my cup of tea. I would go and sit at my desk. I would get my hourglass, the Andrew Griffiths hourglass. I would turn it over and I would write for an hour. And, it might have been garbage, but I would write for an hour because my husband was always in my ear going, just keep on putting sand in the sandpit. You can make castles later.
Exactly.
Sand in the sandpit. Sand in the sandpit. And so, I just got really, really disciplined about getting up and getting to work and working intentionally and not doing anything else, like not looking at email, not starting to tinker with stuff, just getting and picking up where I left off. And the other really great tip that I got was also from my dad. And he said, when you finish writing for the day, leave yourself something that you can pick up and get on with straight away in your next session so that you don't sit down at the blank screen or the blank page and go, what did I do today? Because then you just lose 20 minutes in cogitation and possibly maybe going and looking at your email or something else. So I definitely learned about peak creative times, and I am ruthless about that time now. That's the time when I get up and I send my agent out and go, what happened in the last 24 hours, and then start writing about stuff for my Substack. I learned that there was a book in me, and I do have the tenacity to actually finish something. I'm a really good starter. I love to get started. I don't care if I have a plan. I love to get started on stuff, but then I get a third of the way through, half the way through, and something else shiny happens, and I'm like, oh, I'll go do that now, which is where you came in.
And that's not how I imagine you at all, based on our experience of working together. You know,
terrible.
I would never have guessed that for a moment. As I keep continually saying, you know, from day one, absolute focus, absolute commitment, absolute deadline. Whatever you said you were going to achieve by when, you achieved. You know, it was like every step of the process. It was like, to me, it was a masterclass in writing a book. You know, you were a force of nature. I was just gently nudging you along the way and making sure I didn't slow it down, you know, more so. So I'm really surprised to hear that, that as you're saying, and I'm sure you finish a lot of things, just the nature of what you do. But
maybe I'm being a bit unfair on myself.
Probably.
But, yeah, I do definitely get easily distracted by something interesting over there. And I needed an accountability partner, and that's why I chose to work with you, because I needed you to be my accountability partner. That was the original reason why I chose to work with you. But at the close of it, what I realized through working with you on the book was that I actually needed more than an accountability partner. I needed somebody who could help me shape my sand into an incredible castle, not just something crappy that we do in a mold in a bucket. You know, because we talked so much about the reader experience, and just some basics about, hey, write a part introduction and then a part summary. And when you finish that chapter, hand over to the next chapter in the last sentences and write a bit about who this book is for. Write something about how to read this book. Nothing that I would have ever thought about on my own. And we would have ended up with a horrible textbook that nobody wanted to read. And so that was a strong learning as well.
And that was interesting too, right? Because for you, I guess that was understanding you're a customer experience professional, and here we are saying, well, this is a new thing, customer experience for a book. In reading a book is a whole, you know, same concept, same, you know, many elements of that. So beautiful. Okay, last question I want to ask you is the topic is moving fast. We kind of spoke about that. What is your plan for keeping your book relevant?
Okay, so I am writing every week on Substack with new developments, new things that are happening, interesting things that are happening. So my intention as I go into maybe the Christmas period this year, when we all get lovely downtime and nobody's harassing us for anything, is to take everything that I write in Substack this year and look at what it changes in the book. Go through the book with a fine-tooth comb and go, oh, that's not relevant anymore. Oh, ouch, we don't do things like that anymore. Or, well, that was an interesting experiment, but like we need to experiment with new stuff now. And my intent is to get a second edition out in January 2027. So I'm saying this out loud. It's being recorded. I'm telling you.
I'm just making a note, putting in my diary. January 27, which means it's basically we have to start working on it now. You know, it's like
exactly. So I need to start working on it now, but I know that even if I do start working on it now, by December there'll still be stuff that I have to change and put in it. So I was editing this like up past the final interior proof, going, oh, could you just squeeze this sentence in here because this thing happened yesterday, and so. Yeah, writing a book about the future is a special kind of torture, right? Because something always happens to change the thing that you thought was going to be the thing, and then it's not the thing anymore. And you have to just like restart your thinking on it. So that's my plan.
Great. And I've got to say, I think it's a good plan. I think it's a smart plan from in terms of building your business and what you want to do. The currency of this becomes that your book is the 2027 edition, the 2029 edition, the, whatever it might be. Because I think that I've seen that done poorly. Someone's written a really good book that's really contemporary for right here, right now. But it is, it dates books date quicker now. It's simple as that.
Yeah.
Because the world is just moving faster, and it's like but it's such a great book that is almost warrants an annual update. And you go, oh my God, it's so much work, it's so much this. You go, yeah, but if you're using it to get speaking jobs, if you're using it to get advisory work, it'll work against you if someone's reading it at 3 or 4 or 5 years old, and it's like, oh, this is all a bit old and.
We don't want her. She's not talking about the latest stuff. Why would we have her?
Exactly. So, of course, you have a great strategy around keeping the book relevant, which in turn keeps it relevant as a sales tool for you and your credibility tool. And you almost have like that mini launch every year or 18 months or whatever it looks like, where the latest edition of Machine Customers is out now. And I think I've seen it done really well over the years, where people develop a following, people automatically buy the new book, they get it, you're asked to come back again as a speaker, because what's happened since last year, Katja? You were here, you told us all this stuff. Now we need the 27 versions. Great strategy for a speaker as well. So, fabulous. Hey, look, I'm going to let you go and enjoy your day in Singapore. Go and do the things that you need to do, which will be 1,000 things.
I have many things to do today. I'm very excited for my day, actually. I've got fun things.
Really? It's a fun day. Oh, my goodness.
It's going to be a fun day. Yes, it's going to be a fun day. I've got some lovely meetings with the people whom I'm going to speak in Vienna for.
Fabulous.
But at a really nice venue in Singapore. Just like hot tip, anybody come to Singapore, you really should visit Atlas. It's quite the thing.
Is that's a hotel?
A fun day.
Atlas is a hotel?
Atlas is a bar and restaurant at the bottom of Parkview Square, which is this incredible sort of Art Deco fiesta of merging of styles in the way that Singapore does that, takes something that's actually old and then smushes it together in some weird ways.
Oh, amazing. Hey, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
I'll put contact details, and folks, seriously, you want to read one of the best books that I've come across in many years in so many different ways. Follow Katja. You are, to me, a role model as that commercial author with depth and substance, and all of the gushy things that I've said that I've meant every single
and
word.
A plan. I've got a plan, I think.
You've got a plan. You had a strategy.
Yes.
I just, again, just look and think, you are that's such a great example for me of someone who is a true commercial author, but also is a true author in terms of what you want to write and the quality of your book. I know I keep saying it, but for me it was such an experience, and I was so impressed every step of the way that it was a great learning lesson for me too, to see, well, this is what it can look like. I just mean that so sincerely, Katja. You were so impressive in that process, and I think that what that book is going to do for you, I look forward to having a chat in 10 years' time and looking back reflectively and going, wow, so tell me about the last 10 years.
Excellent. Well, I think you'll have a chance to talk to me before then, because I'll be coming to you for my updates.
Yeah.
I'm going to need you again. You're not done yet, my friend.
Thanks you, Katja. Have a wonderful day. And again, I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for sticking around. And I hope you got great value out of this episode of the Business of Being an Author podcast. Now, I'd also like to say that, of course, there is a book out called The Business of Being an Author, and it's all about the things that we're covering on the podcast, and I think it's perfect for any of you who are aspiring authors ready to really leverage that book. If you'd like to know more about that, you can visit www.andrewgriffiths.com or www.theauthoracademy.com.au. We'll put contact details in the show notes, and I really look forward to your company on the next episode. If you've got an idea for an author that you'd like me to interview, reach out, drop us a line. Righto, folks. Thank you.